is some data on the same that I prepared for you just to find an understanding on the fuel subsidy and of course how it's affecting the uptake of fuel prices, rather uptake of fuel and in the country. Let's give you those numbers right now. So on February to March 2022, fuel was subsidized by that much, 23.29 shillings per litre. Then the marketer's margin is 12.36, meaning that the average loss that the marketer is going through is going to lose, the average amount of money that the marketer is losing is about 10.93. That's about 11 shillings if you round up. Let's take a look at more figures. Subsidy has stabilized. Super petrol at 14.53 shillings per litre, meaning the marketer incurs a loss of 2.14 shillings loss because the margin still stands at 12.39 per litre. Let's give you a bit more of numbers on the same. And if you have to purchase kerosene, then you are advantaged because the subsidy has been stabilized by 15.88 shillings per litre. And of course, the marketer incurs 3.52 loss because the margin stands at 12.36 Kenya shillings. A bit more of numbers on the same. Still, the National Oil Corporation of Kenya is also being affected because it is reporting a 402 million shilling revenue between June and December 2021, but earlier they had targeted to collect 993 million. Beg your pardon, we forgot to put the million there in the same period under review. And of course, they are also being affected now. For such kind of subsidies to be made so that the oil marketers to be in business, the government has to pump in some money to the marketers. So there's a budget of about 8 billion Kenya shillings monthly allocated for oil marketers as compensation. Now, reportedly, Treasury owes about 2 billion Kenya shillings. Of course, Treasury owes NOC alone, that is the National Oil Corporation of Kenya, 250 million Kenya shillings. And let's give you a bit of numbers still on the same. And that is the effect of the fuel subsidy. But then we just want to put a human understanding to this one. Joining me now is Joseph Karanja, the chair of the Independent Oil Marketers. Joseph, good to see you. Let's just talk about why the marketers are crying foul on this one.
Thank you so much for having me here. And this is an important topic because it affects all of us. It is true that the global oil prices are high, and this is when it started going up, and the government saw that it may go beyond the ceiling. We decided to cushion the marketers so that it may protect the consumer. Fine, the money is there because they had, there is this levy which they call Petroleum Development Levy,
sure,
which they've been collecting over time. And this is the money that the government is supposed to use to cushion the mwananchi.
The mwananchi.
And the money is there. I'm trying to address the delay because we don't know why they delay, because the money has already been collected. And it's supposed to pay because they must have done their calculations properly.
Okay.
Because they know the figure or the volume of the product which comes in, and using the volume and what moves, they should be able to get the money ready.
Understandably, there's a budget of 8 billion Kenya shillings, and currently Treasury owes about 2 billion Kenya shillings. Have you gotten any communication on the same?
No. For us, we are independent dealers.
Okay.
And we actually don't import, but we get our supplies from the major importers,
okay,
who have been crying foul against the government because of this delay. So much money has been held up at the Treasury, and this is affecting us in a way that when they want to replenish their stocks and they don't have enough money, they have not been compensated or paid off, then they are not able to import enough product for their multinational stations and for us too.
Okay.
You have to understand this because where we are as independents, we depend on what they buy beyond their needs, beyond what they, their dealership is, such that if for example, company A, let's call it Vivo Total, if they have 1,000 petrol stations and they know the figures that they need, they will import maybe for 1,200 stations. And the 200 stations now, the volume for the 200 extra will be supplied to the independents, and that is where we are now. When they don't have enough money, when they don't have enough cash to buy now for the extra, they just train to buy for what is enough for them, leaving the independents vulnerable without any promise of supply.
Fair enough. Two more questions. You talked, when we were starting the conversation, you talked about the global oil prices, and we are seeing that diplomatic tiff between Russia and Ukraine, of course, after declaring some two regions independent. And understandably, Russia is actually the third largest oil producer worldwide. Do you think that is going to have an effect on our supply of oil in the world?
Yes, you must have realized that whenever there is some kind of tension in some quarters, like what we are having in Russia now, whenever we have that disturbance, immediately it affects the oil prices, oil supply. So we are so much worried because despite the trend, the global trend, price trend is going up. Now, this will even escalate it higher because Russia is a supplier, a major supplier. And again, when there is this kind of tension, people try to go slow on issues. So we are in a few months. It may not be very well for us. And considering that the government appears like they have already exhausted their kitty. We don't even know how they are going to continue subsidizing for these for the prices.
What then would be the effect? Do we have alternatives to work with, or what would be the effect, and what's the way forward for this? Because oil prices have to be kept stable, at least so that the Mwananchi does not complain. And then, but you guys are taking the hits, you're absorbing the cost. So what would be the effect, and what is the way forward?
We are just waiting to see, because personally, or from where I sit, we are worried because now if the government declares that it has exhausted its kitty, for this subsidy, and then it releases, the price to go as per the market, then it will be a road shock to all Kenyans, and I'm telling you, it won't be good. They should have seen this thing a long time ago, and this is, I would just say that this is as a result of not hearing what the people have been saying. You see, when we talk this thing today here, it doesn't mean that it's going to happen today, but people see ahead. And the effects, now the effects of what we were talking about maybe last year, June there, these are the effects. Everybody now is complaining about food, about the cost of living, of which we talked about some times ago when they started. We were, if you can remember, we were so much complaining about the taxes being so high. Now that they became difficult, these are the effects. I'm just wondering how they are going to revert and stabilize things. For example, if they raise the prices today, and the prices goes up by about 10 shillings today, all the manufacturers or suppliers, or whether it's fertilizer, whoever is affected by the fuel, they raise the prices.
They're going to raise the prices.
But even when the government comes in to try to stabilize, the prices of other commodities are already up. And we never saw them, we never see them come down. So I think those guys in those offices should just sit down and just do the work wholesomely,
and
not
do the
just
work.
look at one side, because the other side will be affected too.
Great, great. Many thanks. We have been speaking to Joseph Karanja, the chair of Independent Oil Marketers right here in Kenya. We're keeping an eye on this conversation. We'll be informing you in our subsequent bulletins on how this pans out, and of course how that Russia-Ukraine diplomatic spat is panning out to the effect of the oil supply in the globe particularly. I'm Brian Jodotino. Many thanks for your company today on Business Cafe. Tomorrow we discuss the cost of living. Do join us, same place, same time. Good morning, Africa.